Hey, everybody. We are going to, I'll turn on comments for a little bit. We are going to talk today without comments because we have a guest and a topic to discuss. Very excited to have you all join us. Hello. Hello, Marjorie Joy. All right, I'm going to, when our guest gets here, I'm going to turn off the comments and I'm going to make a creator called Crescent Moon the mod for this discussion. And she should be the only one modding while the comments will be off. So the rest of you that usually do stuff will not have to do that. It is at 10 a.m. It is about to be 10 a.m. in 6 minutes on the East Coast. Just another way of explaining privilege. Time. Someone talked about this in our book club. No, Joe, I do not think you can coerce and manipulate people for good. Like, people were asking me if the Epstein thing is a cult. And I'm like, if anyone is being exploited or trafficked and they are going along with it, it's a cult. That's what cults are. I do not think you can coerce and manipulate for good. I understand the desire for a good cult, but when people ask me that, what I hear is, can I get an unhealthy amount of motivation and dedication and labor from people for my good cult? Like, it doesn't work. Hello. Okay. I am making you a mod. If I remember how to do that, add moderator, confirm. Okay. Hey, Lizzie. And now we wait. Hi. I will tell you about this jacket that I made out of metal. I call it the Lorelei, which are the sirens in the Rhine, because I call this stuff mermaid tails. And I also learned that when you sew with metal, you should line it. Not the most comfortable thing to wear, but ooh, I'm excited that you started your crochet journey. So in this Black History Month, we are here to talk about what made me decide on Harvard was that it went all online during COVID, as I'm sure most of them did. And it had an organizational psychology program. And it's Harvard. What does that mean? I mean that we've decided it's number one, regardless of what's actually true. So we're going to turn off comments. We're going to listen the most, me included. And then we're going to have a question and answer section. We'll see sometime before the end. This is basically about, well, the fact that white supremacy can show up in all of us, even when we think we are doing the work. So we are going to talk about that today and the things that I have done that have maybe not been the best. And a big part of my privilege, which is just about not having to think about the things that I put on the internet very much. Which, of course, is my job, and I'm not supposed to fuck it up. So, hey, no Republican dogs invited to speak. Mm-mm. Hello, Minnesota. Yeah, I'm sure I'll be making another apology video after this. I also owe my live people some apologies because I have been much more triggered than I realized, and I said some bad things on a live the other day, and in my head they were just army culture things, and we all need to think about stuff more. So I do not have arm pain from knitting in this style, but this is one of the things that I say is like, people want to know my trick, and my trick is I've been knitting since I was 5. And just like have built up arm strength my whole teens and 20s. I got the nice handshake creepy bullshit from men. It was nice when that stopped. No, I don't think Trump even knows how to stop anything from happening, much less midterms. But also because I understand how elections work, I think it would be impossible for anyone to stop 6,000 plus elections from going on in under 9 months. Even if we all wanted to, even if we all decided we never wanted elections again, we would not be able to stop that much logistics from happening. There's no, like I've said before, there's no mechanism to turn off elections. There's no mechanism to federalize election. This is not a I don't think he's going to do it thing. This is a he can't do it thing. There's not a way. Thank you. I like it too. No, my abuser, Jeremy Spencer Fleetwood Mac, one of the main ones, is still in the Hall of Fame. Yes, I believe the election was legit. There has been no evidence of significant tampering with American elections in the fraud department. There's been some evidence of Russia interfering, mostly in a propaganda way. I don't know if they've taken people out of the Hall of Fame. Jeremy Spencer. Yeah, if there was a way for them to just cancel election, they wouldn't be bothering to disenfranchise and try to cheat so much. So that's what we need to be focused on. I think what Cardi B did was awesome. That's kind of the thing everyone needs to start doing. Once again, if ICE came in there, they absolutely could have stopped them because numbers. Let's see, I don't think our guest is here yet. What did I stew in Milan? I'm sure it was really, really, really silly. Yep. Ordinary people being involved is important. I even say this about the military. Like every time they're like, oh, we're going to put together a council to look at rape culture. I'm like, do you have privates and lieutenants and civilians like me on that council? Because if you don't even understand the scope of the problem. By the time I was a captain, I was already not deeply in the problem. I do not have a PhD. No, I have a master's degree. So please do not call me doctor. Trust and believe if I had a doctorate, I would mention it all the time. As well as I would refer to myself as Dr. Daniela, scholar of cults, extreme groups, and extremely bad leadership. The cool news is I'm the exact kind of person that gets invited to teach college without having a doctorate. Because if you have a very specific depth of expertise, and especially if you have written a book. No, I've decided to not go for the doctorate. Like I have a fully funded GI Bill, but I don't care to put myself in another high control environment. And I, on purpose, wrote my book outside of academia because partially it was to challenge the existing scholarship in the field. But at University of Maryland, which is 5 minutes from me, they have 2 MFAs that I want to get. One is in theater, and I feel like I could do my musical there. And one is in sculpture, and I want to do yarn and political statements. And there is a Black woman who is one of the main professors there, whose specialty is fiber arts and political statements. So, I just got to find the time to go back to school. And by the way, the right veterans definitely demonstrate that universal income, universal education, and universal healthcare definitely. I could take the credits to you have to be in a degree program to use the GI Bill. There's a few things like flight certificates because pilots and aircrew fought for that. But no, generally you have to be inside of a degree program. That's why I had to have Harvard's permission to take their class on cults. And they denied me permission to take the class on cults because they said it wasn't enough about groups. Yeah. Then recently I saw a article from that professor on why MAGA is not a cult. So I have my opinions on why they did not want me in their class. But that's okay because it helped me with this really important realization, which was realizing that people don't consider bad groups to be successful organizations. Yeah. Not enough about groups was a funny explanation. But you know what? Instead, I took power and privilege and systems was different. Instead, I took a class on self and identity, and that is really what I needed to take. So, that was more helpful to me. I'm glad I took that one. I wanted to take their class on cults because I had this book Uncultured coming out, and I wanted to be really prepared to discuss cults from an academic, smart standpoint. In the end, turns out I probably know the stuff better than the people teaching it. And maybe that's why they didn't want me in the class. And I even addressed that. I was like, I will sit perfectly silently in this class and not say a word until my final project, which you will allow to be on the Children of God. The definition of the class was Jonestown, Heaven's Gate, and Children of God. Why it worked and where we find that in the world around us. Literally, I was like, my book is the story version of this class. Anyway, what I always say about Harvard, other than horrific racism, excellent education, shitty AF student experience. Why? Because they're Harvard and they're like, we can do whatever the fuck we want because we're Harvard. I will also say it's absolutely true that when you say Harvard, people stop listening. That's it. They're just like, oh. So if you had $50,000 or the government behind you, it's a great program. Yeah. And I even said that to them. I was like, why would you want to deny your students the ability to take this class with someone who literally grew up in it? You're welcome to take the class. We just can't add it to your degree. No, I'm not going to spend $3,000 of my own money to take your class. And that's the other thing about the files. Like, so the Children of God performed twice at the White House. And I've always been told to pipe down about this, even by people who like me inside the survivor world, because they're like, come on, it wasn't that. They just had a good outreach program. I'm like, meanwhile, we sang for the president of Brazil. Everyone accepts that that was corrupt. We wrote a marching song for Marcos in the Philippines right before I was born there. Like, everyone accepts that that was corrupt. But for some reason, they got into sing at the White House just because they were a Jesus band that was good. No, come on. Of course, there's always been pedophiles at the White House. We still have freaking statues to motherfucking Thomas Jefferson. The knit-in is very much on March 8th. Although apparently I'm doing it as a cash grab, which I find to be interesting because I don't know how you can grab cash when you're not accepting money. But there you have it. No good deed, folks. No good deed. Ooh, and we just got a $1,000 gift. Look at that. Good morning. Good morning. Yes, ma'am. Well, no, that's fundraising. Like, if people don't understand fundraising for organizing and social events, then I don't care if they think I'm a grifter. They're just not smart enough to understand what we're doing. Yeah. The reason I can't be canceled is because I still show my face. Isn't that great? Okay, let's see. How do we do this? Is she live, Crescent? She needs to also go live, and that way we can merge. Ooh, someone's making a dress again. I love it. This is the thing, and I know that maybe she doesn't want to do this, but I think she's either going to have to follow me or she's going to have to add me. She's not going to pop up for me unless we are mutuals. I think she should be able to add me, though. Yeah, I don't see her, but I think it's because we are not mutuals. Yes, monarch butterflies. I am doing a collab live with someone. Yes. You're going to talk about white supremacy showing up in white people, even white people who think they are deconstructing. Going back to the showing your face thing, it's actually weird to think that someone should just go away out of embarrassment. You know, we can make mistakes and then we can still show our faces and try to do better. Yeah. That's why cancel culture is not actually a thing. Yeah. That's a conservative thing they made up because they don't like having to deal with consequences for the things they did. And maybe that's the difference between messing up by mistake and being willing to own it and do better, and by being a truly evil person. So there you go. But yeah, the reason they can't cancel me, also the reason I'm a respected expert, is because I show up every day and keep giving information. Oh, babes, we don't keep things alive by talking about them. That's a really silly koala thing to say, and you might need to go take another class first. Yeah. Silly koala pants. You maybe need to go learn a little bit from Nazi Germany and how talking about things after the fact is very, very important. And we're still in the fact. So thinking that not talking about white supremacy is going to do anything is your white supremacy showing. Okay, so let's just like learn and do better. It's like when people try to be like, don't use the word cult. You're belittling. Don't use the word cult. You're taking away. They say both of them. Yes, all deconstruction involves addressing the topic and being willing to understand that you made mistakes in the past because you couldn't see something. It is both harder and not as hard as you think. And being willing to feel uncomfortable. Sorry, Lizzie. Of course. Um, yeah, I mean, we're going to talk about it when she gets here. See, it used to be that I would get such garbage for the knitting sound, so I traded almost exclusively to wooden needles, which is a pain because they break and they slow me down. Yeah, I mean, the Serenity Prayer is basically a long thought-stopping cliche. Yeah, but then this time when I started using metal needles again, people have pretty much only said that the sounds are awesome. So now I'm like going back and forth. Ooh, son's dropped out of cadets because his friend said he wasn't loyal. It's probably a good time to drop out. By the way, I think loyalty is an extremely dangerous organizational value. And it is number one of all of the armed forces. No, I'm not counting every time. And actually, probably the biggest knitting stereotype is that you're counting all the time. So, you know, I know that. You think that. I'm speaking at an expert level while also keeping a count in my head. But I'm not. That's the psyop. I usually make my fabrics or cut up other clothes. I think you might be talking about yarn. And I get it from everywhere except the homophobic yarn store. No, the Serenity Prayer is not catching strays. Alcoholics Anonymous is one of my primary targets. Every time it catches bullets from me, they were aimed. I mean, we can make fun of the knitting all we want, but I knit a lot because I was tortured as a child in a cult where I was sex trafficked and used as slave labor and kept in solitary confinement a lot every time I ask a question. I've written a whole book about AA. It's called The Culting of America. I think it's one of the most researched books about AA out there. I also have probably more than 100 videos in a playlist. Okay, I'm wondering if we're going to have to reschedule this because it appears we have some issues. Yeah, it's definitely a fight I didn't choose. In fact, I was trying to choose to run away to live in Portugal, but here we are now. Yeah, I mean, I think just the fact that every single cult person is asked, what about the military and what about AA? No, they have no school for President's Day. But, you know, it might as well just be a Monday. I do still use Portuguese and Spanish. I'm having the book translated into Spanish right now. No, it was more to specifically match my book cover. And we are going to go to Raleigh on Memorial Day weekend, and we are going to celebrate Knitting Cult Lady's unbirthday. I am waiting for her, and I believe somebody is helping us communicate. I am originally from a sex cult called the Children of God. I was born in the Philippines as the Marcos regime was coming down. Then I grew up in Japan, Peru, a decade in Brazil just after their military dictatorship. I remember the changing money well. Then I was trafficked through Mexico and lower Texas as a young teenager. Then I was dropped in Houston. My family is technically from Dallas, but we gave that up to a cult. I am not seeing any invites. Oh, you know what? My content is age protected. That might be another thing. Because I can only co-host with creators whose content is also age protected. I did not see an invite. It would pop right on up here. Crescent. Like this Fashion Beauty's invite to co-host is what it would look like. Yep, the Philippines. So, you know, if we ever got very draconian about birthright citizenship, I would be stateless. So my content is age protected. So like when she goes live, she has to click on this is not for children or this is only for 18 plus. I'm not doing great with the files. Yeah, I've made a lot of mistakes. That's part of what we're here to talk about. So you'll be seeing me live significantly less. I think she needs to like get off her live and restart the live and click the age thing. I could also potentially do it and unclick the age thing, but my lives are very not age appropriate. Just tell me what to do. So when you go live, there's a question about whether this is for age, like for adults only. And mine is on, so I could only merge if she also has that on. I don't know if I end this one. I don't know if I can come back into this one. That's the only thing. Sorry, folks. The loveliness of technology as it goes. I think when I was dropped into Texas in 2003, it was very obvious to me that many Americans, especially white Americans, had been raised in a cult. That just hadn't been defined yet. And I think we now know that they were growing up in the cult of MAGA, which is, it's a whole thing that I think we can trace back. We can trace it back all the way to the Puritans. We can really trace this specific movement to the 1930s and through the 60s, and almost all of it is in retaliation to marginalized people getting rights, as it goes. Same way that every time women ask for rights, men are like, fine, we'll fuck teenagers. And we just need to stop letting them be in society, I think. Yeah. Thanks for your money about my hair. Love you. I love not having to pay for my hair color anymore. Just the hate comments. Yeah. So I guess, one of the interesting things for me is that I've seen very different types of white supremacy. So, growing up in Brazil. So, first of all, growing up in a cult that was literally trying very hard to be white supremacist, but with a really old, like slavery theory, but then raised us all around the world with babies of all sorts. So I say they kind of broke their own white supremacy. Then I was, grew up mostly in Brazil. And then I was dropped in America when I was almost 16. The first time I heard the term white privilege, I was a captain in the Army, and someone was, I think if she comes back with the adults only thing, we should be able to add each other. I think that's the problem. I don't understand what mistakes were made about the files. No, I mentioned that I am not doing so okay right now because of everything that is going on, and I have made some mistakes. I think white supremacy is also a cult. I think when people say something more than cults, they're not understanding that like totalitarian nation is a form of cult. Going along with your own exploitation is a form of cult. We are not belittling it by saying this. I'm literally starting with the Puritans coming to America. Cult. Part of why I'm dedicated to taking down white supremacy is because one, I don't like cults, and two, the promise of the cult is always a lie. I think Tom Hanks is probably one of the last good men in America, but I also would not be surprised if he turned out to not be, because I don't have a lot of faith in anybody. I don't think we have to draw a line between colonialism and imperialism and cults. I think cults were defined. Ooh, invite. Yeah. Don't go. Yes. Hello.
Hello, good morning.
Good
It was the
morning.
18 and older bit. Thanks for
I'm sorry about that.
hey, it's not your fault that I don't go live enough to actually know what I'm doing. Um so Quad, do I need to add you or you're good for the mod? And CB,
I'm going to turn off my comments now, folks.
did you know that people actually just get up in the morning and just join random lives?
I
Like
do
just
know
strangers.
this. Yes.
Imagine.
Yes.
Just like sitting down at breakfast and just sitting here
All
with
of the
me after.
time. All of the time. They'll be in
Is
my
it
live and they'll be
okay?
coming for me. And I'm like, you clearly don't know who I am. So why are you in a random stranger's live? Like I ask people that question all the
Yeah,
time.
but very, very beautiful young lady this morning. She's like, I love your dreads. They're locks, honey. And I didn't mean to bring you up here. Anyway, so if I think there are people that are trying to get over here now. But so I've got some mods here. Quad, my homie, and CB, my other homie. Solid women. You guys are good, right? I don't need to do anything. Like this is really not my
And I have comments off, and Crescent Moon is the mod for me for this one
right.
as well. And we can turn questions
Yeah.
on if you want at the end or not.
Yeah. Yeah. All good here. Okay. So, Quad, can you just like while we are so like kind of you want to kind of talk format so they know what to expect?
Yeah. Are you still good to go for an hour or do you have a hard
Yeah.
stop?
Yeah,
Okay.
no, I'm good.
So, yeah, we'll talk for about an hour. I asked for this conversation because I have been learning a lot about how we can still be, I would say, how white supremacy can still come through in white people, even though we think we are doing a good job. And I have been in that situation many times in my life. I think the thing about me is I'm genuinely trying to do better. And I would like to learn from you. I've already learned from a lot of your videos and responses to me. So yeah, like I'm mostly here to listen to you. Obviously, I am happy to engage as much as possible. But I think me and my very largely white lady audience can learn a lot from you.
Okay. Before we get started, I think Quad's working on turning off the comments. So I talked to Crescent a little bit. I don't know if you feel comfortable, like on my end, like because we're talking about culture, right? How our cultures blend and things like that. Um, and in the Black culture, when we are having serious conversations, we sit down, we pay attention, and things like that. And I know you knit while you're talking. Can you talk to Black people about why you're doing that? Because that's not something that we do. It's not um, it's an indicator that white people are not listening when they're doing things with their hands, you know. So do you feel comfortable sharing that?
Yeah. I think that for me, it goes very deeply to being imprisoned and tortured as a child and spending a lot of time in solitary confinement. And so for me, it's a comfort thing. It is a psychological thing that I just always have something with me. That way I'm never alone. Um, and when I was 18 was when was the first time I was in any sort of system actually with anyone paying attention to me. Like I think I am very classically ADHD, but I don't even know if I would have been missed in the system even back then, but I was not in the system. When I was 18, I was pulled aside after a learning test and told I had the most unique form of learning, which was what do they call it? Body kinesic. You code things in through movement. And in that moment, I was like, oh, I know how to knit. So I went out and I bought a book stand and I bought knitting needles and sort of knit my way through life. I was very aware in college that like if I showed up with knitting needles to class, that it was going to upset professors. I think we've come a long way with understanding that. For me, it is more about reading. Like if I do not have something with my hands, the words will just fly off the page. It's another form of dyslexia called hyperlexia.
Mhm.
The ways we make something's good and something's bad. But when I'm talking, I don't have to have it. It's just there's going to be a lot of this. So it is also one of the things, like part of why I do it on my channel all the time is because it does make me seem calmer and more fluent in what I'm saying.
Okay. So, knit, if that's what feels right to you, do your thing. Like, I wanted an explanation, right? And that's Black people. You see, and in this exchange that we just had, I'm all about examples, because what we're talking about here, it's kind of hard sometimes to wrap your mind around it. So sometimes it's easier just to show you rather than to tell you. We come from two completely different cultures, right? Now, I also have ADHD like a big bitch. You understand? Like maxed out on the meds. Okay. And still, right? So what you're saying makes complete sense to me. Mine manifests in a completely different way. In my culture, when I see something that's different and I code it as a potential for disrespect, I'm going to ask you a question. And if you're open enough to give me an answer, then because I'm used to sharing space, I have been taught all my life that it is the expectation that I share space. And I have never been raised to believe that my way is the only way. Then I can adapt to make sure that you get what you need in a conversation as well as I get what I need in a conversation. White people don't receive us the same way, right? So when we're talking about white supremacy is a culture. It is a culture completely outside of the ethnicity of European Americans. It is a culture that you all have created to take over, to take place of the ethnicity that you all have, that you could be just as proud of and non-offensive as Black people are proud of our ethnicity, right? But you've traded your ethnicity for this culture of white supremacy. And in the culture of white supremacy, there's one way to have this conversation. My way, if I'm the white person, right? I'm not. And I'm so very glad about it because it is more important for us to have the conversation and for us to get from this conversation what we need than for me to look at you and be like, why in the fuck won't she put them needles down? Why wouldn't I just ask you? So knit if that's what you need to do so we can do us. Okay.
I've actually made a bit of a mistake that's going to take me some time to fix. So I'm probably just going to sit here and do this,
Okay.
which
All right.
is just so
Well,
everybody understands.
yeah. Do what you need to do for your brain to work because I have my stimming things that I do for my brain to work. So I kind of when I was talking to you a little bit about that little example, that little like this is how we manifest differently and like a superficial way, just like
Yeah.
behaviors and things. I brought up white supremacy as a culture, right? And I do believe that it is this culture that European Americans take on what we call whiteness, right? You're in your whiteness and, white fragility, all of those things. That's the culture that you all have taken on. And even those of you who say that you are full on anti-racist, because it's a difference, right? We can all agree there's a difference between not being racist and being anti-racist, right? Even for those of you who say you are anti-racist and you are doing things to deconstruct whiteness, how do you identify whiteness? How do you tell your culture, right, of whiteness from your ethnicity? Like, who you are, where you come from, what you should be proud of. Like, why is it when we talk to Irish Americans can tell us that they were indentured servants. They can't tell us shit else about being Irish. Well, they can tell us that they were indentured servants because that learning is white supremacist culture. It's not like pride in your ethnicity. The white
Hmm.
supremacist culture tells Irish people to learn they were indentured servants as a pushback against Black people when we talk about chattel slavery. Does that make sense?
Makes sense.
Yeah.
And
So,
I would say, like, one of the interesting things for me is that I didn't grow up in America. And I specifically grew up in Brazil, which is, when you say white supremacy is a culture,
mm,
like, they have a different version of it there.
right.
And so I guess that's something for me that I have been able to understand a little bit more easily. Was just like, first of all, I was dropped in the US when I was almost 16.
Hmm.
And I am like, I'm Slovakian and Hungarian, but I'm like from nowhere. I was trafficked all over the world growing up. And so I like learned the American version of white supremacy as an adult. And I have this other version in the background. Um, anyway, all that to say, like, it took me a very long time to understand that I couldn't recreate Brazilian culture without understanding the difference in white supremacy there and white supremacy here, and like how that's shown up.
Right.
Um, and it's also one of those things that I have learned that I need to be more conscious of, because I do present as, of course, like an American born and raised white woman.
Hmm. Right.
Um, yeah.
Yeah. The interesting thing about the culture of white supremacy is you got the same tenets, you know,
Mhm.
like it doesn't matter where it's rooted from. The ideas of individualism, it's here in America, it's there in Brazil, right? That there's one way to do things. That belief, it's here and it's also in Brazil. And I think I'm very fortunate that in my profession, I meet people, and in my location. I'm a critical care nurse in Houston, Texas. And here in Houston, Texas, when I tell you it is a culturally diverse environment, I am in a culturally diverse environment where people are at their worst. Okay. And I don't expect you to be having a good day if you're seeing me and I'm at work. Either you're dying or someone you love is dying, right? And in that, I see how whiteness across the world shows up. I see how Blackness across the world shows up in the most intense and intimate times in people's lives. And what I can tell you is, with Black people, how we respond to trauma, how we respond to pain, there are some very similar things, but there are also some very unique differences based on our ethnicity. It's the same thing with Europeans and European Americans, right? How you guys respond. Perfect example. Let's look how Germany is responding to maggots in America. Germans, Europeans in Germany, how they are responding and still in their whiteness to Americans right now. Like, these people over here are the first ones to call it exactly what it is. These Germans are not playing with European Americans at all. I have seen some Germans go in on European Americans, and if you think I can slice somebody up, it's not pretty, and I'm here for it. But they've already been here. It's not that these Germans are saying we're better than you. No, these Germans are saying we're the same as you and we already fell for this shit. This is what you're doing to yourselves, your own humanity, the people around you. And at the same time, I know history very well. A German befriended me, baby, I'm gonna ask so many damn questions. It's not even funny. You know what I'm saying? Because I remember who you are. I remember who you are, right? But when a German says to an American right now, this is what you are, because I remember and I see, I'm not clouded by this culture, right? This ethnicity of white supremacy if we could even say that, right? We could be so bold as to stretch these definitions. When I see these Germans talking to you guys, the rebuttals, now you want to, now you sound like you're talking to black people, right? And that's the culture of white supremacy right there. Y'all are so damn similar. So similar that you've got one group of white people saying, wait a minute. We know what you're thinking because we were thinking it. We know what you're doing because we did it. And this is what happened. Protect your humanity. You don't want to do it. So now you start carrying on with them. Now y'all are fighting. And black folks, we're like, shit, fight it out. Who cares? Because at a certain point, we get done talking. We get tired of talking, right? Talking about things that we have in common, right? When I come in contact with Irish Americans, it's a vibe. It's a vibe. You know why? I love culture. I love learning about different parts in history. I love food. I love music. I will dance my ass off. I will drink my ass off with the Irish Americans. But white people, they don't come in my house. You understand? When I meet you in a place that celebrates who you are, recognizing who I am, okay, where who I am and who you are can coexist in one spot, it's a good time that can be had. But when you come in with your whiteness and I am living this authentic Black American life, it's a no-go. A Black American life that the cornerstone of this for me is autonomy for me and my people. I'm not going to tolerate European Americans, but I will have a funky ass good time with an Irish American. There is a difference. The difference is how you all move. I'm still the same, you know. What I mean, and those are just the things on the surface. These are the things that we code like on just like on the surface when we're interacting in a day-to-day basis. And we have all of these things in our head. We train our children. You know, so when you guys try to protect your kids, we don't want to teach that in school. What the fuck you mean you don't want to teach that in school, but you expect my children to live it in the world, right? We teach our children how to be human around you. We don't teach our children how to be black. We teach our children how to be human, and being human, you celebrate who you are. You respect who you are. You respect your people in being human, right? So we're teaching our children over here how to be human, and y'all are teaching y'all children how to be white. Humans also defend themselves. Survival. You know what I'm saying? These are the things that happen over here in response to your removal of your own ethnicity and the substitution of white supremacist culture. But you're all doing it to yourselves, right? That's a whole lot, you know, that I just dumped on you. Um, open for feedback here.
I think the Epstein list is a really good example of what you're talking about. And I think it was your video, but it might have been somebody else who said, you know, they didn't want Black girls on Epstein Island in part because they would fight back and they would tell their parents.
Absolutely.
And, you know, I think because of my very particular history of trauma and trafficking, like I have always had this concept of the world is bad and I need to prepare my child for it. But I have actual like family members, actual siblings who will not talk to me anymore because they want to raise their children in some sort of mythical environment free of just exactly what you're talking about, right? Like the
Mm-hmm.
children shouldn't be exposed to this at a young age. And
Right.
I have always tried to, I just think, present the world as it is. But as I have learned about my own internalized racism, very much one of the things that stands out is like, we don't talk to our children about this. You know, so I had a thing where I realized the way that I walked was racist because I kept bumping into Black people after I moved to the state of Maryland.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, okay, I need to look into that. And one of the things that came out was, of course, Black women were very kind in their responses. One of the responses it was, yeah, I teach my kid to never get out of the way on a sidewalk. And what stood out to me from that was like, oh, I haven't talked to my kid about not taking up the sidewalk or moving over. So that is, I mean, I think that I am, this is an army word, but tracking like what you were saying, and that is like a huge part of it is the conversations we're willing to have with our children,
Absolutely.
which is not necessarily something I excel at.
Right. Well, you know what though? It depends on the topic. Quite honestly, there are some things my children already know I'm not the parent to come talk to. You know what I'm saying? It's like,
Science and
don't,
math.
yeah.
I'm like,
And
I'm not the parent to be talking to about that.
yeah, they already know there's some things. And when they're having these conversations, you know what they call me? The old girl. Yeah, they're like, nah, don't go talk to the old girl about that shit. She's gonna, and then whatever it is, right? Like our kids know us, right? They know what we're great at. They know what we're okay. They know where we struggle, honestly. And kids are children. They will exploit that, right? To the point where it's painful to us. And what do you, and actually I'm not going to use the word painful. It's a stimulus. Okay. They will exploit our weaknesses to the point where it stimulates us to do something, whether we do something good or we do something bad. Those little things right there are a parent's number one, get your butt up and do. Whichever way you go, you're going to have to get up and you're going to have to move, right? And, our children, for me, they're all mine. I don't give a damn what color these kids are. I don't care what color these babies are. They are our second chance at humanity. Every single one of them for every single one of us. Because if you look at us generationally, we have gotten it wrong. We're getting closer and closer to right. And I do believe that it's sometimes people like the two of us sitting in this environment, right, that helps push us that way. We're getting closer and closer to getting it right. But quite frankly, Black people, we don't have time to keep waiting on y'all. Like shit's getting dire out here for us, right? So while y'all are getting closer and closer to getting right, more and more of us are getting dead. We've got to accelerate this like big time. And when we are talking to our kids don't expect us to be perfect, but they do expect us to help them come up with an answer, not have an answer, but help them find the answer. And in finding those answers, a lot of times, like just, and not on this topic, just in general, helping my children find the answers on things. Do you know that actually helped me find my humanity in this whole immigration thing? This whole immigration process, me as a Black American, it was my children. And I've 3 children. 2 of them are adults. 1 of them is a tender age child. It was the 2 adults. They were like, I want to say between 10 and 12 when I had this full awakening of my blind spots in immigration, because I am a Black American and there are some sticky spots there for us, right? Well read, but still Black American, right? So there's some sticky spots for us. And my children, they're mine. They just put things in my face. It's like, so you don't even know where they're from? So why are you acting like that, mama? Acting like what? Like the defense was there, right? The defense was there. What do you mean? I'm not acting like anything. I'm just saying, well, what are you really saying? Because this is what we're hearing, right? And you want to talk about, in realizing this, what I learned was I had never thought to separate white Brazilians from brown Brazilians. They were all fucking Brazilian. And I'm recalling these instances that I had personal with a white presenting Brazilian girl half of my life mega bitch, right? So I'm taking all of this personal stuff and from this white Brazilian and I'm applying it to all of them. And my son even says, he's like, so it's not this group of people. No, it's not this group of people or that group of people. And I was like, I see what you're trying to do here, kid. I don't appreciate it. And I got up and I walked off, go out in my garage, or garden. And I was like, what the fuck is wrong with these little kids here, man? Like, what a way to turn on me, right? When I start unpacking what my children were saying to me, it was like pulling pieces of conversations that I had had with white people. And why was I feeling like that? The tenets of white supremacy culture were just popping out at me. And I'm like, how is this in me? Well, because I've always been around it, right? I've always been around it. Being this oppressed person, being fully aware of the oppression, right? I've always been around it, but I am taking my personal and applying it to an entire group of people while telling people not to do that to me. But it was my children, and them being brave enough to say, you're being a hypocrite right now. We know you're not a hypocrite. So why are you acting like this, mama? What's your problem? Get your shit together, And these are 10 to 12-year-old little humans, like just
I got one.
comfortable as you know what in their humanity, right? So finding those answers, sometimes they're the ones. And so to think that you have to shield them from racism, you're really just shielding yourself. They're fine. These kids are all right. No one is born a racist, right? You're taught to be racist. And anyone of any color, of any race can be taught racism, right? So nobody's born that way. We're the ones that go fucking up these kids. And then we wonder why they do the things that they do. Well, because we taught them, right? So for European Americans out here that are using their children, as a shield, you're using your child as a shield. Your children are far braver than you are. And, your children at this point, your children are like new bones. When newborns are born, their bones are pliable. It takes a whole lot more to break a newborn's bone than it does to break your bone. Well, that's because they're forming, right? And once we get to a certain point, right, in our growth and development, those plates are sealed. We're not growing anymore. And yes, our bones are as fragile as they're going to be, right? When we're kids, those plates are not formed yet. So you still got a lot of opportunity to grow and you got a whole lot of opportunity to mold yourself, right? You put braces on a 4-year-old, you're going to straighten those legs up. You put braces on a 14-year-old, you're going to be bow leg, baby. Sorry. That's just how it is, right? Same thing goes with white supremacist culture. If you start deconstructing a 4-year-old, you realize that you're a rabid ass racist and you're like, gotta do better. Your 4-year-old could have lived in this with you. And as soon as you start to make better moves, do better things, put your child in a better environment, watch them and how quickly they mold to humanity versus how hard it is for you. And it's your idea to be a better person. They're just made that way, so stop using your kids as a shield. That's bullshit. You're using
It's
them
a
as a
cult
shield.
thing too. Yeah.
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 One of the things that we did in 2020 was move across the country because part of our waking up was just realizing like we are two white people with a white child in Seattle, which I think presents itself as far more diverse than it actually is.
Your
And
racism is more covert on that part of the country. It's still
yeah,
there. Yeah.
yeah. But moving to Maryland and we moved to a very not white county. And part of it part of the exercise for us was like pay attention to where you're surprised, right?
Mhm.
And the things that you don't have to think about. And the other thing, I like that you brought up the kids because, I've always said, like, for me, being dropped out of a cult at 16, like, I didn't know anything about the world. Like, I had to teach myself everything. But I also had to move forward and sort of like present as a 16-year-old and
Mhm.
going forward. And so for me, there's always been this like marriage of you always have to be working to undo the shit that you learned, but you also have to operate in the world and go forward as you are. Um, and one of my things, and one of the things I really am taking to heart from this conversation or like want to address in myself is like, how do we do that? Like so the first time I heard the term white privilege, someone was trying to use my example to say there was no white privilege.
Mhm.
And instead, what they did was give me the term for this thing I had felt for 14 years, which I just described as people always treat me better than they should. Um,
It's
Part of why I
interesting that
even,
you're saying it.
yeah. Um, I was dropped into a 4,000 kid high school in Houston, Texas. Talk about culture shock after never spending a day in school, boom, Lamar High School,
Oh yeah,
and
they could have thought that through. The adults around you probably could have thought that through.
oh, there were no adults. Yeah,
Oh
yeah,
yeah,
yeah. It was
yeah,
interesting.
yeah.
And so one of the things I even talk with my kid about a lot is like paperwork privilege. Like everyone's in a system and my stuff has never fit. The first thing they said to me at Lamar was, we can't enroll you because you don't exist. Good luck. We're going to call the cops in 5 days if you're not enrolled somewhere. But because of what I can now see as just whiteness, for a long time, I thanked my very difficult name for always, even if I don't like, so in Texas, you got to have a birth certificate to get your driver's license. And my
Right.
birth certificate and my current ID were different because cult. And, my answer is often, I just don't have what you're looking for. And in the end, they'll be like,
Mhm.
oh, Daniela Mestenek. Okay, fine. But this even goes as far as like, I don't need a receipt to leave a store, right? Even I don't even need a receipt for returns
Right.
because there's this assumption of goodness. And that has been,
Which is why when we were kids, my homegirls that were white, they did all the lifting, okay? Because nobody's gonna look for the white girl to be the lifter. But anyway, go on.
okay, well,
Yeah.
no, but that's a good example
Yeah.
of, so like, I think that as I have found out about whiteness and white privilege and inequality, I've been a person that is trying to address it, um, trying to kind of ask, like, how do you give it back? Which, of course, you really can't. I think the answer is we can weaponize it and use it as a shield against white supremacy.
Hmm.
Um, but I am fumbling my way through learning all of that, I would say. And one of the big things is just that understanding that, like, I am a white woman, even if I don't feel that way, like I don't feel American at all. I feel a little bit sad. I think that I ended up as a white American. Um, and
Well,
one
you're
of
gonna
the,
be white no matter where you are, right?
oh yeah, I know.
So,
But like
but it
in
is
other,
different being
in
Brazilian
other
white.
places, I don't feel like you're expected to be so boring, like
Yeah.
I say in America, like good women are supposed to be quiet, skinny, and a light shade of beige. And in Brazil, for example, nobody blinks twice that I like to wear bright clothes and I can salsa dance and speak
Mhm.
languages. So I had said for a long time that like American culture just doesn't know how to have fun. I now understand that that's white culture.
Mhm.
And one of the things I think happened with my life that I'm trying to deconstruct is I just thought that that was my only choice. Like my only choice was to try and pass as like a white girl from Texas. And it wasn't until I was really deconstructing my time in the military that I was like, why did I think I have to be this?
Right.
And I think a lot of the work that I have done in the past decade is trying to deconstruct that. But there's this additional element of, I think, clarifying who you're talking to, understanding that no matter how I feel, like I am a white American, and that comes with its own baggage. And that's a place that I think it's going to take me more time to understand. And it's going to take me more time of like getting things wrong. And I completely understand that in choosing to be a public person, I'm going to have to do that in public. So I would like to do it in the least hurtful ways.
You want to be perfect.
None of those were questions.
Okay. I mean, I'm just saying, like, it sounds like you want to be perfect. That's pretty white of you.
I
Yeah,
think
keeping
that's
it 100.
definitely one of
Yeah,
the
it's pretty
things
white of
that
you.
I'm working on is the
Yeah.
perfectionism, and
Right.
that hasn't been very long for me.
Right.
Probably about 3 years ago when I
I'm going to ask you
realized that
something
nobody's perfect.
about white privilege. Okay. Do you think we want you to give it up? Do you think black people are looking at white people and saying, give up your white privilege? Do you think that's what's happening?
No,
Okay. What do you think is happening around white privilege?
I think, I think it's the whole system that we need to take down.
What if I said to you, black people don't expect you to give up shit? We expect you to make space for us to get our own and enjoy it the same way you enjoy yours. What if I said that to you? You don't have to give up your safety. You don't have to give up your money. You don't have to give up your ability to make money. You don't have to give up your home. You don't have to give up your ability to buy a home. You don't have to give up the comfort you feel when you are a little bit uncomfortable and you see a cop walking down the sidewalk. We don't want you to give that up. We want it too. I want to be able to buy a house. First of all, I want the damn credit score to mean something, because in black neighborhoods, it don't mean a damn thing, but it means something in your neighborhood. Is it reasonable to have like some number that says, I can loan you this money? You've got a track record that says you're going to be a good steward of this money. Does that make sense? Sure, it does. What doesn't make sense is it works in your benefit and into my demise, right? We don't want you to not be able to buy a house, girl. Everybody needs to have a house. We need a house too. We don't want you as a European American woman to not do well in the workforce. We want you to do we want you to get the 100% of what your husband gets. You know what? I want it too. You know? And in order for us to have that, you need to understand there is a huge difference between equality and equity. So in order for us to enjoy the same privileges that we all know is a white privilege, it's a white life. That means you're going to have to throw this idea of equality out the door, right? Because if I give you $250,000, right? And I give a black American woman $250,000, and I tell you both, your mission is to go out and buy, you got the same credit score. Your mission is to go out and buy a home. You're going to be successful without a doubt. I don't know that from my black American sister. Right? So giving both of y'all $250,000, it ain't going to make a damn bit of difference because it's the system, right? And in this system, what might have to happen is I give you $250,000 and I give that black American woman $450,000 for both of y'all to end up with the same house. That is equity. In order for both of us to end up with the same thing, which is our right, okay? A home is not a privilege, it's a right. I have to be given far more because this country has taken far more from me. And in order for this country to compensate for the wrongs it's committed against this Black American woman, yay, it's gonna cost you an extra $200,000. That's equity. That's not equality. I don't expect you to give up one, but you're a woman. I'm a woman. I'm a survivor. You're a survivor. I don't ever want you to be unsafe. Not ever. But your safety is more likely to come than mine, and we both have a shitty chance of getting it. And us recognizing that you can't throw me out as the decoy. You can't use my Black femme existence as a decoy for you to throw out to your white men while you run away and find a safe place to fucking hide. That's what happened with the abortion bans. Black women are dying in this country trying to give birth, right? I live in Houston, Texas. Houston, Texas has just been named the most unsafe place in America for a Black woman to give birth. We're dying trying to give birth. And European American women are like, we want some equality, fight for your right as a woman, blah, 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 blah. We need abortions. Bitch, I'm dying trying to give birth. You can kiss my Black ass if you think I'm fixing to go out here and fight so you can correct your Friday night fuck up. When my sister over here has been trying to have this baby for 10 years, finally gets pregnant, and now she's dead. And if we're lucky, that baby is a motherless child, because a lot of times the babies, we lose them too, right? You see where we need the same things, right? Because we're all human. We're not all getting it because we got some confusion on terms. And there's some serious confusion about what Black people are asking and expecting. We're not asking anymore. We're demanding, and we're expecting you to produce because you're dying. You guys are dying. This whiteness ain't working out for y'all. So if we're going to get better, we're going to have better. We are going to get better this time. I'm not letting Black women get out here marching for your abortion access. No. We're dying, damn it. We are dying. We are losing our lives. You don't want to have that baby. And let's just say it was, hey, everything's all fine and good. Great times. It was lovely. No trauma attached whatsoever. We just doing what humans do. And you don't want it. Okay. Well, I do. I'm going to hold on to mine, and I'm going to end up dead for it. And you feel like you're being slighted because you're going to end up alive with the treasure that I wanted. No, shit ain't fair. It's not, and I'm not fixing to let Black people keep busting our asses so your privileges increase and our lives cease to exist. This is the culture of white supremacy. The culture of white supremacy makes you believe we want you to give up what your culture has told you are privileges. And they are actually human rights. You have a right to feel safe. So do I. That shouldn't ever even be considered a fucking privilege. But it's white supremacy that's got you all treating this privilege as something that you need to hold close to your chest and protect, guard from the rest of us. You're doing that to yourselves. And at the same time, you guys are wondering why you can't sit by us. I work my ass off. I'm a good person. I fight bullies. You understand? I was the kid that got bullied so damn much that I was like, you know what, gloves off. I'm going to hit first. I fight bullies, right? The issues, I lost my job, and white supremacy threatened my livelihood. I'm still blackballed in the medical center here, right? I travel for work now because of white supremacy, because white supremacy took aim at a black woman, and I didn't let her fight by herself. Never said anything bad about anybody. I just said, you're not going to attack her. We all deserve to be safe. It's not a privilege, it's a right. But it's your men got you thinking that your safety is a fucking privilege. It ain't no black people. It's your men. And I tell you what, the conversations that need to be had between black women and white women, they need to be had. They're not easy conversations. And I think one of the things that's hardest about the conversations, like drilling down to it, and like just having a basic understanding of where black women are coming from, seeing you all as oppressors. It is so much harder to have that conversation because it's so much easier to see yourself as a bully when you're the one balling up your fist, right? You can see this on impact. You don't see the motion, the force that comes behind it. That's a whole fucking scientific equation, right? The force that comes behind it. But a punch is not a punch without the force. You white women are the force behind your men's fist. You are far more dangerous than you want to take credit for. But yeah, your man is going to swing that punch. But when you put the force of white women behind that punch you're swinging, now you're looking at knockout type shit. You guys work in tandem. And while you work in tandem, you are the greatest beneficiary to white supremacy. Second in line, you're also the first ones to feel the cruelty of it. I wouldn't want to be a fucking white woman for shit. Your station in society comes with a high price. I'm not going to pay for it, So and let me also say this. I understand why y'all want to take it easy on each other. White women want to coddle white women because you all know your proximity to danger, right? So when you see a white woman out here doing the Karen, you can think to yourself, she's doing the Karen because of X, Y, and Z. I'm not in that whole thing, right? That makes you want to sympathize with her because you know where her trauma is coming from. But you focus on the trauma that where all of this is coming from. Y'all forget to look at what you're doing. And then you expect us to see your trauma, right? See where your trauma is coming from. Like, y'all are out here on this fucking playground screaming at our kids, acting a whole fool. And you expect us to understand that if your son has been taught to go home and report back to his dad how well you perform out in public. We know that type of shit happens, right? I don't care what your son got to tell his daddy. I care about you screaming at my kid, right? And we're here right now, and I'm going to protect my second chances in my community. I'm going to protect our children's humanity. You gonna get your ass whooped, girl. I don't care what's going on back at your house. I don't have to see that. I don't know where that's coming from. What I do see is the impact of your trauma on my community. Is your trauma real? Sure it is. My children come first. This pain that I feel, I have a right to make it center in my existence. I have a right to unpack it. I have a right to find interventions. I have a right to figure out a way to be unbothered and unburdened by white folks. I have that right because I want the same comfort, the same safety that is being called white privilege because white supremacist culture is denying it from my people. But let's not forget at the root of that is that's the big gig, right? White supremacist culture has convinced you all to hoard your rights your God-given rights in such a way that it feels like privilege to everyone, including you, when again, they are simply basic human rights that should be benevolently shared amongst all of us. White supremacist culture is the biggest fucking scam ever on y'all. That was a lot. That was a lot.
It was all very good though. Yeah, I will get asked by people, why would you want to take down white supremacy if you're white? And I always say, well, because it's not better, right? Like the promise of the cult is always a lie. Like I'm better
Mhm.
off than you, but I'm not better off.
Right.
One of the big things that happened in my life in 2020 was not in my life, but uh, there was a Mexican American woman who went missing in the army, and they didn't look for her for 60 days. And when they did, they found her body in 3 shallow graves, Vanessa Guillen. And my first thought when I heard about it was they would have looked for me.
They would have.
And I think, interesting example in this situation, because when a straight presenting white captain came across as missing, the literal thought was the system assesses me as important, right? And
Right.
I am no one. I'm an indigent child that was dropped in America with $0 at the age of 15 from a sex cult. And, my people weren't coming for me. And when I said that to my mom, she said, hey, and I said, Mom, you wouldn't have even known to go to Congress to act, right? To like ask for this. So this is what I have been like, a question that I am trying to answer in my own life is, you talked about this conversation between Black women and white women as being important. And I am trying to be like, I am fully bought into this. Like I believe that I am fully committed to taking down white supremacy and patriarchy and capitalism. I think they're all interlocked. I think the capitalism one
Absolutely.
is very challenging when we have to make a
Love that.
living. But even up to like when I got a book deal, I was like, I know that I've got this book deal because I'm a white woman, right? Because my story is considered the every woman's story, and a Black woman or brown woman's story would not. My question before had been, what do you do with that, right? Do you not like, at a decade ago, I thought the answer could be you kick the door down and then you can bring other people through. With my second go round, and I think I've learned more, I'm trying it differently. Like, what if we can just do an end run around the whole system that doesn't actually value any of us? And I don't think I really have a question here. I've just learned a lot from what you were saying, and I need to, it's like, I don't want to phrase that as a question, I guess, because it sounds
Mhm.
lame, but like, how you don't want us to give the privilege back. So
No.
when we are standing here with this privilege, and again, I was dropped off in America 20 years ago with $0. Today, I have more money than most Black women that I know, right? That is, there's a very clear white privilege there.
Right.
So other than education, like, what are the steps? And what I'm trying to navigate is like, how can I use my voice and my situation to radicalize white women?
What do you
I
think would have
think
happened?
sorry.
No, go ahead. I'm sorry. I cut you off. I want you to
I was
finish.
just gonna say, I think it's pretty powerful when somebody doesn't want to accept white privilege and I can say to them, here's all of my places of white privilege. You know, Basically, if I can admit it, Karen, you can admit it too. I
Mm-hmm.
think there's, some of the conversations I've really messed up on are What do we do with the people leaving MAGA? What do we do with the people who are waking up right now? And I do understand that you should not have to deal with them absolutely at all. I
I
think
shouldn't.
sorry.
Totally agree.
And I think
My
that
phone becomes crazy.
part of this conversation is maybe like, where are the white women on this field? You know, can we be helping the people that are coming out of it
You must.
while
You
also
absolutely must.
using ourselves as a barrier against
And you
all of
must
the
not.
people they were trying to help, to
Well,
hurt?
here's the thing. Here's the thing for me. You're getting your asses kicked. Okay. And these people are the ones that are kicking your ass. So if you want to free them, that's fine. But are you going to let them kick your ass to do that? That's crazy. That doesn't make sense. You are no one's punching bag. And again, this is why I wanted to bring it out that we're not asking you to give up any privilege. We're not. We are asking you to recognize that these are actually rights that we should all be experiencing. We should all be enjoying, and they should be normalized as a safe and wholesome existence for humanity. It should not be white privilege, right? We don't want you out here being somebody's punching bag. Girl power, right? But if you feel like you were called to do this work, and you are, because we work on our own, right? That's human nature. That doesn't that doesn't mean you have to be unsafe to do it. If a person is unsafe, they're unsafe. And if you are unsafe, that means you are still full on engaged in your white supremacy and you're talking shit. You don't like Donald Trump. You still hate niggas. You just don't like Donald Trump. I don't want you under my tent just because you don't like Donald Trump. I want you under this tent if you understand that you are living a privileged life because white supremacy says so. And what you are actually living is basic human rights that we all deserve. If you're not thinking like that, you don't deserve to hold space with me. So is this person beating the crap out of you? If they're beating the crap out of you, they're damn sure going to beat the crap out of me. You don't need to be somebody's punching bag. And if somebody is when someone is drowning, and you go out to save them in the water and they're fighting so hard they're pulling you down, what are you taught to do?
Knock them out?
Well, I mean, that's a strategy. But actually, you just stop swimming. Let them
Sorry, that's what we're
sink.
taught to do in the Army.
Yeah, okay. But we're not in all stay focused. But yeah, you're taught to let go. Let go. Let them sink. And they will stop fighting you so you can pull them to safety. Because if they're fighting you, and I pull a 250-pound man out of the water, okay? Good thing it was water, because baby, if we on land, your ass is gonna stay right there, right? There's no way I can't match you muscle for muscle. If that man had started fighting, you best believe I would have let him go. I would have let him go because I'm not going to drown trying to save you, a drowning man. I'm not doing that. So if what you're on this work and these people are beating you up to the point where it is siphoning the goodness out of you, let them go. Let them go and walk away. There are other people out here that want to be saved. And you got a whole lot of white people in drowning waters. But before you pull them out of that water and you think you fixing to bring them over here where my people are, if they weren't safe for you, they damn sure are not safe for me. Don't ask me to bring anything into this camp that is not fully safe for us, And even if on the path of deconstruction, that still don't make you safe for Black people at all. But what that does do is it puts you in a different category. So people like me, Black people like me that put myself out there to do this type of work amongst the races for my people, I choose to be a representative for Black lives. I'm the one that's stepping in the arena. So if you mess up, I signed up to take the heat. Every Baby, black people walking down the street did not sign up for your practices of how to walk inclusively. You know what I'm saying? I did, not them. So you get this right with me before you try go out there. Don't upset my people, right? But at the same point, in order for you to get to the point where you're talking to me, you have had to make the decision if they were safe enough for you to pull out of the water. You see how we have to work together to do this. And your decisions up front, that quite literally, you are making the decision for these people crossing over into these anti-racist spaces. You're making the decision up front who I come in contact with on this side. So I need to make sure you're not pulling unsafe people out of the fucking water trying to save them for them to now come over on this side and burn our shit down. You know? So what do you think would have happened if white women, captains, like officers, took it upon themselves to go looking for that woman? Because you could have. The system says you can't. It's the system that's eating women alive. And you are the most powerful women inside this system. We're all getting our asses kicked. But out of all of us, you've got the most power. What would have happened if a bunch of European American officers in the military went looking for her? You may not have found shallow graves. You might have found her. So why didn't you go looking? And I don't mean you specifically. I mean white women. If you know that we are not safe, it's not enough for you to know it. Once you know it and you do nothing, you're complicit. Go looking for her. That's where you use your privilege. That's where you use your station in society. If these Epstein files, these are your girls. These are your girls. And I think all of you all know that if it's a black woman coming across a baby being abducted, we don't give a damn what that child looks like. Baby, you fixing to answer some questions. If nothing else, if because likely we might whoop your ass, right? We might jump in and fight, right? If nothing else, we're going to stop you and ask enough questions to create a distraction so that baby can run or something. We are going to get involved for these kids. And we're watching you all not get involved for your own kids. So if this is how you move out of fear, oh, big baby, this is my love. If this is how you move out of fear for your own safety, and the fear for your safety is real. If you don't move to protect your kids, baby, you're not going to do shit. You're not going to bust a grape for mine. Or for me. We see you moving, but then you want us to trust you. You're not safe to pull out of the drown. You're not safe to pull out of the water. Just like your men aren't. Just like these maggots aren't. And no matter how poor your assessment skills may be based on where you are in your deconstruction journey, I'm black. I ain't deconstructing shit. I'm going to call it like I see it. And I always call it right. You know, are you safe? If saving you from drowning water is going to get me dead, you're going to drown. And that's okay for you all when you are trying to help people deconstruct their racism. You can't help nobody if you're dead. And I'm not going to let you in. If you make decisions that make you unsafe, you don't value yourself. You don't value yourself. How can you possibly value me and my people? I'm not going to let you in. I'm a badass gatekeeper for our girls. Because I'm going to go looking for that brown woman. I know me. I'm going to go looking for the black woman. But you know what? I'm going to go looking for the white woman too. And I've been tested. And I know what I have. I know what's on the line. I know what's on the line. And I'm going to go looking anyway. So, yeah.
It mostly just leaves me feeling like I have my work cut out for me. I spend a lot of time thinking about like what role everyone needs to play in the revolution, and like what, for example, I don't think I am a great leader. Pretty much tested that in the army. Like some people are good at
Well,
leading
following
and
says otherwise. Own your shit, girl.
yeah,
You're
what
good at
I
this.
what I
You're good
think
at it.
I'm
Own
good
it.
at performing.
Yeah, so own that. Own what you're
I'm
good at.
good at building a large platform and getting people to look. And I'm
Okay.
trying to figure out my role in passing the microphone, my role in, like I don't think I'm the person to talk to them right when they're waking up. I need a little bit of distance from cult survivors,
Okay.
and I also think the people that are right there, so my answer is very rarely, but sometimes we have cult survivor support groups, like for the fundamentalist Latter-day Saints who escape out of Utah and Arizona. We have a defined cult, so there's a defined group to help them.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're someone that's like doing the halfway house stuff for cult survivors, you kind of still have to have one foot in the cult, right? Because you can't like spook them, and like there's a certain amount of coddling, especially if you're talking about people that have always been in that, which of
Mm-hmm.
course, if we're talking about white supremacy, that's all white people.
Right.
Um, I, so that was one of the things I got from your videos was like, well, I am thinking of myself as somebody that's not the first person in the fight. However, I have put myself up here on a platform. And so I probably do, therefore, have to be more welcoming and be more
At least give them some direction, girl. I mean, you
accepting.
read the
And
shit out of that woman and you gave her no direction. At least be like, you know what? I can't deal with you, but this is the person that can, because somebody got to help them out. You know what I'm saying? Like somebody's gonna have to do the work. And if it's not me, then I need to be able to tell you who is. And part of my work, because when I tell you I do anti-racism training, but I ask people flat, is this your first exposure to anti-racism work? I'm not even going to take your money, because the way you're going to light my ass up on a Google review, I don't need that in my life. You're not ready to talk to me about this. Like I'm an advanced course, baby. You got to have some things already understood before we have these types. We have a meaningful conversation, because I'm not going to even bother talking to you if it's not going to be meaningful, right? In me recognizing that about myself, my own triggers, because of my own trauma, it is my job to find the people that have the stomach for it. So when I come across people that need this help, they're looking for it, and I know my people need you to get this help, I'm going to send you down here to White Woman Whisperer, because baby, she has a way of saying shit where I'm like, damn, girl. Okay. Where I'm just like, you know what, girl, fuck you. Get out my comments. You know what I'm saying? So it's my job to know me. Again, know my triggers, know my trauma, and how the baggage I naturally bring to this work is going to impact the person that is looking to unpack their racism. How do I help you? I help you by sending you over there, because she gonna tear your ass up, okay? But she's oh so gentle about it. She's gonna slowly turn that shit up. I'm gonna drop your ass in the fire. Because if you're talking to me, you're fire tested, right? I know that. So, and there are days, I'm gonna tell you, like there's this conversation that's happening between our foundational Black Americans and Black immigrants. There are days where I talk to my people and I really just want to be like, you know what? And then just let it rip. Why am I here? Why am I in this spot right here at this moment? Well, I'm going to admit the fact that I'm good at it, right? I'm reasonably, I'd be a whole lot better at it, show how good I am at it if TikTok wasn't racist, right? But it is. And I elected to put myself in this. So if I am electing to put myself into this and you get in my comments and you say some dumb shit, I have signed up to be the one to help you clear it all up. So I'm going to do the best I can. And because I love Black people, it's easier for me to love on them and while recognizing their forced errors. Girl, work on your people shit. You know what I'm saying? And if you can't work on them because you've got your own righteous trauma and triggers that you got to take care of because you cannot help people if you're hurting, then tell them where they need to get. Pick somebody. I'm a little bit more careful careful about where I shuffle white women now. Because I've asked questions also of Black women. Hey, if somebody is saying this, this, and this, is this something that you feel safe unpacking with them? Is this something you feel safe carrying them through? And what does that look like for you? Because this is labor. So how do you feel appreciated for the labor you put into this level of anti-racism work? I have to ask questions because I'm not going to assume anything about my sisters. Like we're not a monolith. Neither are you. You're not either. Right? You know why Black people say we are not a monolith? Because y'all try to handle us like one. We've never looked at y'all and thought y'all were the same. I've run into followers, out in the public. And one young lady looked at me and she said, you know white people? I was like,
I live in
yeah, what the fuck
America.
you mean? What does that mean? Yes, of course I know white people. It's like you have white people that are your friends. Yes, I do. What I also understand though is just because this white girl that I'm having lunch with is safe for me, that doesn't mean she's safe for you. Right? So when I tell you be on guard with this bitch too. Because listen, I'm not going to give this woman a pass to treat you the way you deserve to be treated because only you can define what is right for you and what is wrong for you. And she was raised in white supremacy. Now if she's having lunch with me, she's likely going to do okay with you, but I'm not going to guarantee that any European American is safe for any Black life. We do our own fact checking. And I'm fully aware of that because of the work that I've done in this space and because of the Black life that I've lived. So doing this work is hard because it hurts. It hurts, like doing this work within my community, it's like intergenerational work, unpacking the generational trauma within my community, with my community. I'm a Gen Xer, right? So we're taking care of our parents and we're taking care of our children and grandchildren. That's a lot to bear. And when I'm talking to Gen Xers about autonomy, Gen Zers about autonomy, about social justice, owning themselves, owning their autonomy in political spaces and things like that. I have plenty of Gen Zers that say to me, you're a whole ass Gen Xer. You're my mama's age. You're the enemy. You know what I'm saying? I fully appreciate and acknowledge the fact that some of my cohorts are assholes. And this is why. I will definitely offer an explanation, but before I do, I'm going to validate every single thing that you said because I know me. I'm going to stay true to myself. But at the cornerstone, at the center of all of our anti-racist, social justice, just humanity work, it has to be self-awareness. We have to be aware of ourselves and protect ourselves at all costs. Don't you pull no fucking maggots out the water that are not safe for you. Let them motherfuckers drown. If they're not going to get safe for you to pull them out of the water, that's a strong indicator that they need to drown. I feel the same way about all men when it comes to women. I will let your ass drown
Yeah.
before I let you hurt a girl.
Well,
Yeah.
and this is a good analogy for me because one of the things I'm going to take away from this conversation is I need to work on loving white Americans a little more. Um, but then also paying attention to, the trauma and the triggers. I have mostly throughout my life been victimized by white Americans. So it is
Yeah.
confusing, and my anger is sometimes appropriate and oftentimes not. So I just want to be conscious of the time we've gone over. Do we
Yes.
want to take questions or do you need to go?
I am open for questions. I cleared out until 11:30. So I'm open for questions from the group. If we're going to open up for questions, what I do want to do right now is we got some mods that have been like holding it down in the background. And now that we're about to open these comments up, y'all really fixing to put in some work, I'm sure. And ladies, I appreciate all three of y'all. Y'all are straight up badasses. And yeah, this is how women's supposed to work. I appreciate you. So anyway, yeah, let's, open it up. I'm also still wearing my glasses, so um you
Does that
wanna
mean you
you wanna
can see or you can't see?
I can't because I can't always trust me. I can't. I'm just like, what the hell
One
just
of the ways I've been explaining privilege to my husband and other people was if you've never had to pay to use your eyes. I'm married to a pilot, so only in his 44s is he getting
oh yeah.
distance presbyopia. So, like, he's just never had to deal with it. And I had LASIK, so then I didn't have to think about it for a
Mhm.
decade. And then I had to get glasses again. And I was like, you go through this whole period of being like, oh crap, like I need a thing to be able to see. Um, yeah, it
I
hasn't been
feel that.
quite so
I feel,
so politicized.
yeah, I have
Um,
perfect vision too. And like I didn't even, and actually my vision started to get bad during COVID. And so, but we were always wearing these masks and stuff. The way I stayed in denial for a solid 18 months that my vision had turned to crap. I was like, I'm like getting things, all kinds of wipes and whatnot, scrubbing
yeah,
my goggles. It's gotta be the goggles. No, girl, it's
I
your
did the
eyes.
same thing as the surgery was wearing off. I was like, no. But yeah,
Yeah.
it is
Um,
challenging.
yeah. You want to take some comments? Oh wait, I do want to hit this one, and I want to acknowledge this color coordination thing, guys, was not planned. Absolutely not planned. But yeah, I'm digging it too. I'm digging it
um,
too.
Someone said they're embarrassed to be white and the shame is real. And I've had some interesting moments with that. I think, I moved to a very black county in the end of 2020. And I remember walking around and feeling a lot of shame and thinking I need to sit with that. Like it's
Mhm.
not something to rush through. And I think it has to do a lot of this, as we take away the privilege, we will be seen as a monolith, white women. And I think we need that a little bit. Um, Yeah, and I like, to me that's even true with MAGA. I think, I don't identify as ex MAGA at all, but MAGA is just a manifestation of, I think, the cult of white supremacy that we've kind of all been cultured under. And like, so to me, I think that sitting with the shame was also an exercise in understanding stereotypes and how they are applied to groups of people as well.
Right, right. I think for the most part, um, shame is not for survivors. Okay. Shame is for victims and perpetrators. I say shame is for victims because that is part of the process that we go through to move from victimhood to survivors, right? We should always shame predators. Always. No, no matter what. Predators, yeah, shame on you. But that's the humanity in us. So that shame, right? Tap into it because that's the humanity. That's that thing in your head that's saying, wait a minute, something's wrong here. Something's going all wrong here. And the more you involve yourself with that wrongdoing, the greater the feeling of shame rightfully will be, right? But please remember, shame, it's necessary. It's a necessary step for victims. I had to go through that, right? I'm not a predator. I fight bullies. I'm not ashamed of fighting bullies. And I'm not ashamed of assessing people that I'm pulling out of that turbulent water. I will not be ashamed to leave you in that water drowning because trying to save you will cost me my life. Right. So I say lean into it in a way where where's it really coming from? What part of your humanity is seeing the insult on society? Figure that out, because living in shame only creates more trauma, right? So I think we should be very careful about. I'll shame the hell out of a politician, though, baby. I sure will. So you've got your groups, right? You've got your groups, people that need to wear it, but usually it's not everyday people. And you start to this thing, right? Like, what's the reward? Okay, I address this. This whole, how do I show you that I'm safe? I'm an ally. First of all, I don't need allies. I don't need that. Okay. I got a whole fucking village. What I need an ally for? Accomplices? Yes, ma'am. Somebody that's going to go help me look for the missing woman? Absolutely. Somebody that's going to lift your husband's pocket and donate that shit to Black and brown organizations? Yes, sir. We need that. We need accomplices. Absolutely. We don't need allies, right? So when I'm trying to figure out like a way to make it relatable, and it's a little bit of a challenge. Let's just say your reward has to be the absence of shame. Right. Like when you're doing anti-racism work, when you're unpacking all of this, when you're deconstructing, okay, if your reward is to be closer to me, you're never going to win. Like, remember, create a it's not about your white privilege. It is about a human right to be unbossed and unburdened by others. Right. So if your reward is closer proximity to me, then I'm not going to be unbossed and unburdened by you. You're not doing the
Yeah.
work you think you're doing. So your reward is your own humanity. It is the absence of that feeling of shame.
I
Right.
have an analogy, and it's a Gen X analogy.
Let's have it. Let's have
So
it.
I always say, people ask me if we're going to have a draft again, right? And I'm like, unlikely for a lot of reasons. But when the boomers were last drafted, like, their parents let them go to war. You try to draft Gen Z? And their parents are going to be right. Gen X is going to be right in that fight. I
Kick
think
your
of
ass.
no, the fuck, you're not taking my children.
You get your hands off my kids. Yeah.
And that's why I always say, I'm like, I would love to see them try to
Not my
draft
kids.
Gen Z. You know, I mean,
Mm-mm.
first of all, you could just be like, I feel like a they today. I don't know, and they won't be
I'm
able to
telling
do
you,
anything because they
the
haven't
way
gotten
we
over
would.
their homophobia. But I
Yeah.
exactly feel like Gen X, and I mean, unfortunately, I have a parent who's Gen X because she's only not even barely 15 years older than me. But like
Mhm.
having that parent who knows they were treated poorly and abused, and yet still is like, you will come through me to get to my children. And something I wanted to say to one of my comments, you know, people are saying, how am I supposed to deconstruct when my family won't take me seriously? I think one of the things when you deconstruct a toxic system is you lose the pride in that system.
There you go.
And also you might lose a lot of those people, you know.
Absolutely.
So like with my first book, I got to hang on to my mom and my military mentor even while being heavily critical, but I didn't know that until I had already written the book, and I had to accept losing them. And my husband and I have lost most of our family and more the white people in our lives.
Right.
And I think you have to recognize the lack of a village. You know, I think that in white America, the phrase "it takes a village" is a motherfucking thought-stopping cliche. At least I know when I got pregnant, I was like, where the fuck is my village? Right. And
Yeah.
everyone's just like, no, it's hard. You know, being a new mom is like, it's the same way we torture terrorists. And everyone's just like, no, fuck
Sleep
it. That's
deprived as
how it
hell.
is.
Yeah.
I mean, the sleep deprivation, it was a whole other thing for me. I was just like, no, this is exactly how we break people.
Right.
Um,
And you're right. Somebody in my comments said we make a village. Yeah. Yeah. We make it. Yeah.
yeah, and you have to make a different village. And I also think there's a, you know, one of the parts that we are figuring out that we play in the village is that, you know, in my house, there's 27 years of white military experience. And we have made sure that everyone in our current village understands that, like, you know, what's your response to ICE coming? Like, call us.
Right.
And even we are not the same. I have a big
Right.
platform, so I need to show up streaming. He is a 6'2" white, blue-eyed man with military experience. He can show up in his uniform and get in the face of ICE in the way that nobody else can.
Right.
So like, we're not totally there, of course. I don't think deconstructing anything is ever over.
Never.
But these two things have stood out for me. You know, as soon as I wrote a book criticizing the way Army treats women, I was much less proud of my part in that toxic system, right?
Right.
It's like understanding that once you start deconstructing this, you're not going to be done until you're ready to blow it all up, take down the system.
Absolutely.
But then also that there is so much more community and villages outside of whiteness.
Absolutely. If white people, if you drop the white and actually leaned into your ethnicities, y'all would stop trying to come to our fucking cookouts. Quite honestly, y'all always want to come over here and get in our shit because y'all have been programmed to believe all you got going on is whiteness, which is why not going to be throwing back the drinks with European Americans, but an Irish American, I have stories. Okay, and I chose Irish American for a specific reason. There is an Irish American in my life, you know, and when I met this person, and this person, it's not one of those, oh, I go by Irish American because I'm a non-practicing white. No, fuck that. All of y'all are practicing whiteness, okay? All of you. Again, Acknowledge the fact that Black people are not asking you to give up your privilege. We're asking you to recognize that what you call privilege is actually basic human rights. Okay. It's been hijacked by the white supremacist culture, right? This person who is all day long, every day, is like, yeah, I'm just a fat, jolly white girl. I'm like, bitch, could you talk about yourself a little bit better? Like that, that's just her. But when she starts talking, when you see her moving, you see her living. Now you're not looking. It's not like, who is this white girl doing this thing? This ethnicity that she's proud of comes through. So she doesn't show up pro-white. People understand that she loves her Irish heritage, right? So, and I get that because I love my Black American heritage. I love this diaspora. I can get down with that all day. She is not a practicing white supremacist. She is proud of being of Irish descent. There's nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with that at all. And we have a damn good time. We can coexist with people. Again, we can coexist with people that can recognize themselves outside of this white supremacist culture. You must. You absolutely must. If you ever want to get in contact with your humanity, it is the white supremacist culture to strip you of your humanity. So yet now you can don whiteness. We don't like that. Y'all, and as long as that's what you're rocking, you're not safe for us to pull out of the water, you know? I don't have enough words in the comments to explain okay, I don't know what that means.
It is.
Like I
Someone
started
says
reading one.
America sold us to be a melting pot, but it's actually like a fruit salad. Yeah. I've always said this, like America is like a stir fry. Like it's like
Yeah.
bring everything here and keep it together, but keep it separate. One of the things I think to me is the power of using my story is just the power of the extreme. So like I was like, well, I lost my relationship. My family is recent immigrants from Slovakia, like the type that still cares if you call it Czechoslovakia, right? Like recent. But my family lost that because we were off in a cult. And, but then it's one of those things that I started realizing, well, like, but that is true for pretty much all white Americans. Like my family that didn't join the cult is still only yay tied to their Slovakian heritage after a few generations. So there's this definite like need to go back and connect to things. Which I just want to say to people, like, can be challenging to do. It's hard to learn Slovakian culture from America if you can't afford to travel, but there are definite ways to do it. Should we refer to ourselves as, like, should I refer to myself as a Slovakian American, a European American, a white American? I don't know if you have an answer to that, but do you have an opinion?
You know what? I'm a Black American because I say so. You know what I'm saying? If you refer to me as anything else, well, that wouldn't be different. You know what I'm saying? People call Black Americans all kinds of shit, whether we want you to or not. But how I identify, that's me. Now, there are Black people that are like, you're not Black. You're, and then, they have something else that they feel strongly and connected to, I feel strongly connected to Black American. That's a personal choice that I made, I call y'all European Americans because y'all all act like European Americans. When the whiteness is upon you, it is y'all just all blend together. You all lose your uniqueness. You take it off, not us, And again, me referring to myself comfortably as a Black American, where did this social construct of race even come from? It came from Europeans, So you guys get to decide how you identify. I'm going to tell you, if you identify as a non-practicing white, I'm going to tell you you're full of shit. That's not a thing. You know what I'm saying? That'd be like me saying, I can't even come up with an example on that because I'm black as fuck and I practice it. Okay. I practice it. So, yeah, I think you got to live where you live, you know,
And
and
I
you
mean,
got to make
I
sure.
think, I'm sorry.
I was just going to say, the important thing is to make sure that the way that you're living is not burdening your neighbor. You're not living with expectations on your neighbor. You know, if you're living the life that, you know, your garbage needs to be taken out, and every Tuesday you stop by your neighbors and you're like, well, fucking take my garbage out. You know, you're opening yourself up for disappointment. You know, you're going to have fallout because the way you want to live, you're putting the expectation on your neighbor. If you're going to
Yeah.
enjoy a life where your trash is out every Tuesday and your neighbor has to be the one to take it out for you and there is no compensation, hand it to your neighbor, you're going to live a real funky existence, you know?
Yeah.
So where are your
Well,
expectations?
and I want to talk about the uniqueness thing because, that is something that you lose to cults is this homogeneity, and you're never
Mhm.
supposed to stand out. You're never supposed to anything. But then also how you talked about like your identity can change as you build it and own things. And,
Absolutely.
this has been another part of the knitting for me. Like when I was 24, just for in the middle of waking up to my trauma for the first time, I started writing a book called The Girl from Nowhere,
Hmm.
because that at the time was genuinely how I felt. And one of the things for me about making my own things and pulling influences from everywhere I have been is I now much more think of myself as someone who's from everywhere or who has influences from all of these different places in the world that I've lived. And
Hmm.
like, that can be an authentic part of yourself too. I
Right.
want to say, like, even if you are a white person, and I've spent a lot of time in this intersection of appropriation versus appreciation. And like the fact that
As
in
you
order,
should.
the same way with patriarchy, it's like they gave us everything that tastes good, smells good, feels good, or is fun to do, right? That's all like womanly stuff and
Right.
demonized. And in whiteness, it's like they took away color, flavor, dancing, like everything that is good or fun. And
I know why it's crazy that white people think black people want to be like them. It's like, girl, what? Look at how you're living over there. What kind of is that?
I
Your
always
fucking
say I'm
chicken?
a little bit, I used to notice this when I traveled, but I came back to America. But now I actually notice it every time it gets cold too, because it's like this constant reminder that I'm not from here. And I'm like, I think I
Mhm.
am a little bit sad that I ended up a white American. And part of my journey of dealing with that has been unbeigifying and
Right.
just trying to be more unique.
Right.
And I will end my part of this discussion because I really have to pee soon, with
Yeah.
saying that one of my favorite like anti-cult vaccines, I call it, is there's many valid ways to live a life. And for most of us in white culture, we were raised with like, this is what you do.
Right.
And that's the fundamental thing of cults is like, there's one way to live. If you do all of these things, if you follow all of these rules and you don't fuck up, which is impossible,
Right.
we promise you the right way to live life. Um, and so I will say this to my audience, right? Like I get stuck in binary thinking. I made some stuff that I'm embarrassed about that was very, very binary and lacking nuance. And that is something that I have to work on forever because of how I was cultured. And I am very grateful to you for engaging in this conversation and taking the time to discuss this with me, even though I did not come off safe.
I do it for Black lives. I do it for Black lives. And this is something, well, I guess what I will leave you guys with is, if you are not familiar with my content. When I said earlier, like I'm not the beginner level for anti-racism. For white people unpacking racism, I am not the beginner level. Okay, what does that mean? If the things that, if my content is triggering you, it's supposed to. It is supposed to. If you are European American and you are serious about unpacking racism and you come across my content, if it does not trigger you, all it does is piss you off, go back to the beginner course. You're still on 101 because the things that come out of my mouth, they are with the expectation that you have lived in this country. You just lived a life. Okay. It doesn't really matter because white supremacist culture is global. Okay. It is with, I am talking to you with the expectation of you understanding that you are harmful, whether you want to admit it or not, you are. And also the majority of my content is directed, centered around Black lives. There is no what about me in my comments because I'm not talking to you. If that is triggering for you, you are in a 101 position. You're not as advanced as you think you are. And if I tell you you're not as advanced as you think you are, just go ahead. If any Black person tells you that, just go ahead and believe them. Don't argue because it is our lives that you have been raised to believe you have to live in opposition of. And you don't even know me. Your parents, your grandparents, your great grandparents, the people, the white people around you that you think are the greatest have raised you to believe that your life should be in opposition of mine. So if that's how you've been raised to believe, and I tell you, you are exactly who they raised you to be, that's not a good thing. And it is absolutely the truth. And I'm going to say it to you with love and respect to Black lives, because that's what's centered here. And I love my people. So,
Yes, ma'am. And
yeah.
please do follow her. Like, to my followers, my analogy here is going to be like the fastest way you get better at salsa dancing is if you hang out for the intermediate and the advanced levels, but you can't stop and make it all about you if you're still a beginner. So like you can be there in the class and you're going to get better faster, but don't make it about you. And if you need beginning instruction, come over here. Come go follow White Woman Whisperer, who
She's
we
going to
have
kick her ass.
both talked about. You
I'm
get
gonna
your
drop her
ass kicked on
DM.
a beginner level.
Yeah.
And thanks everybody
Yeah.
who is trying to do the work. Thanks for being here and showing up. Thank you again, WellRead, for engaging in this discussion. I see folks asking if it was recorded. I believe it was recorded, so we'll figure out a way to
I
share
think it
it.
might have been recorded on my end. I think I've got my settings. Maybe it's default because as you can see, I don't know what the hell I'm doing. So, but I did learn some
And
things from you guys today. So
potentially we'll be able to share it in the future. If I do share it on my site, I want you all to know that I'm not monetized for content. So there we have that. All right. Thank you so much. I look forward to your
very much.
videos all of the time. And I appreciate this discussion.
Right on.
Thanks, everybody.
For Black Lives.
Black Lives.